Parliament has become the centre of Scottish civic and political life. And I wasn't sure then what it would look like, what it would sound like, what it would mean. But it really has replaced Westminster as where the reporting comes from, where the policies come from. People think of this now as the place that runs Scotland.
Now, you have come out for Jeremy Hunt to be the new leader of the Conservative Party and therefore obviously the Prime Minister. He wasn't your first choice.
Or my second.
Exactly, it wasn't your second choice.
I've been the kiss of death to many candidates, Kirsty.
Have you had direct conversations with Jeremy Hunt about your support for him?
Well, obviously he came and sought it in the way that I think 10 of the 12 candidates did, either directly or on the phone.
Did Boris Johnson seek your support?
Well, we certainly had a conversation before it all kicked off.
Before it all kicked off?
Well, in terms of after the Prime Minister had indicated she was going to resign and before the contest started in earnest.
But did he come to you after that at any point and say, Ruth Davidson, I would like you, as the senior Conservative in Scotland, to back my campaign? Has he approached you?
We did have a conversation. I don't think, in my recollection of the conversation, well, nothing is quite as clear and as linear as that in terms of a conversation with Boris, but I don't think there was an actual will you back me question that was asked, no.
You've touched on an incredibly important point, not just for Conservatives but for the electorate. The idea that nothing is a straight arrow answer. Do you find him evasive? Do you think to have somebody that is not straightforward, it's got to be someone that's totally trustworthy, totally honest, to be the Prime Minister?
Well, I think that there are elements of character that you want in any Prime Minister. I think you need to have somebody who's got mental capacity. I think you need somebody that has attention to detail. I think you need somebody who is able to take the tough calls. I think you need somebody that's got moral courage. And I think you need somebody that's a good communicator. I think all of these things are needed and required in a Prime Minister. And I think that you only know whether somebody has them to the degree at which they are required once they're in office. I don't think anything prepares you for that job.
But you have to have an indication. Why would you vote for somebody if you didn't believe that had the capacity for that? And you clearly think Jeremy Hunt's got the greater capacity.
Yes.
Even though you might not agree with him on things, for example, like his abortion, he wants 24 weeks to be 12 weeks.
Yes, I think that's a terrible policy.
But have you said that to him?
No, we haven't discussed that. Because I don't think we've spoken directly since.
No, but you would say to him that, you know, he said already that that's not something he would try and foist in terms of policy, but you would object to that.
It's also a devolved issue, and there are no plans from any party in Scotland, and all parties have made it clear that we would not change what the abortion rates are in Scotland. Sorry, the length of time before you're able to approach them.
But you don't think that's a character problem for him?
I don't know what is his rationale behind that. I personally take a very different view, and I'm happy to expound upon that in terms of the science, in terms of a woman's right to choose, in terms of having ownership over your own body. And that's why, like I say, it is a devolved issue. The Scottish Parliament decides that for people in Scotland, and that no party, including my own, would do anything to change the timescale for abortions in this country.
There are more and more issues that are devolved.
Exactly.
But, you know, Nicola Sturgeon has said that a no-deal Brexit or very hard Brexit is likely and more likely to hasten the end of the union. So you've got two things. You've got Jeremy Hunt saying, I'm going to save the union at all costs, but then he can't have a hard Brexit or a no-deal Brexit.
Well, he also says that he's looking for a deal, and that is his primary policy. He's also said that the 31st is a false deadline, that he would much rather see an extension in order to get a deal than to go to a no deal.
What would happen, do you think, if Boris Johnson became Prime Minister and took us out of the European Union without a deal on the 31st of October? What would happen?
Well, I think we would leave the European Union without a deal. But, you know, in terms of the butterfly flapping its wings and what are the consequences of that, I'm not sure I'm in a position to answer that. And more importantly, I'm not sure he's in a position to answer that. Because
the result could, of course, be that there is a general election. There could be the loss of a Conservative government, and there could be maybe a Corbyn coalition with Nicola Sturgeon.
Well, I think there's a lot of maybes in there. I have always supported getting a deal across the line. I continue to support getting a deal across the line. It appears to me, although it may change at a future point in this campaign, it appears to me that Boris Johnson is also edging away from his do or die comments, and then he's added them back in. So I don't know whether his primary wishes to get a deal or not get a deal. I can't tell. I know that Jeremy Hunt wants a deal, and like I say, that's where my vote is going.
Boris Johnson says that if he becomes Prime Minister, the chances are what he's going to do is increase the upper limit for higher level taxation from 50 to 80,000. That's not designed for the Scottish population, is it? It's designed for people in the southeast.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think it's designed to help the Conservative Party or indeed to help the country, because I think that as a party we work best when we're making sure that we've got fair taxation aimed particularly at the lowest earners. And I'm very proud of some of the work that colleagues have done, both as part of the coalition government actually, but has carried on since, to make sure that the lowest earners are taken out of taxation altogether or having their tax reduced.
So all these things, the kind of Boris Johnson, what he stands for, courting the right of the party, keeping people away from Nigel Farage, lowering tax for the highest earners, this is antithetical, is it not, to your kind of politics?
Well, I'm, not from the same wing of the Conservative Party as Boris Johnson.
But can both wings still exist if the plane's to fly?
I don't think that comes as a surprise to any of your viewers out there. And I've been very clear that I think if you're going to have a taxation policy that's involved in cutting taxes for workers, you should absolutely focus that on the poorest first, on the lowest earners first. And I think that we as a party, up until quite recently, we as a party had an agreement about that.
Westminster dictating to Scotland is something that's been a kind of recurring theme. Jeremy Hunt has announced...
It's a theme the SNP use a lot.
No, but a recurring theme in this sense, that Jeremy Hunt is saying, and has, as part of his job as Foreign Secretary, stopped money to Nicola Sturgeon for foreign trips if he thinks there's any question of her promoting independence on these trips. Is he right to do that?
Well, I think if the primary role of these trips is to go against UK government policy and to say that the UK should no longer cease to exist, I don't understand why the SNP are crying foul that they're not getting money from the very government that they want to no longer exist anymore. I would suggest the first term of the SNP, yep, they had a good run, they were tempering some of their policies, they were a minority government, they were working with others. Since then, every single thing they've done has been about their overarching priority of independence, and we've seen public policy suffer.
Ruth Davidson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.